Hi, welcome to another Clickcast, guys. We're going to speak. We will speak to up and coming photographers online, well-known photographers as well. Our guest is a lover of nature and landscape photography. It is Brian Nicolson, and most of you might have seen him on Facebook on his website, on his page, where his images are really, really nice. Different types of landscape images, woodlands, vista shots, hills, snow-capped hills, etc. Really inviting images that just draw the eye in. So I'm just going to speak to Brian. Before I do, I'm just going to ask him something. Brian, can I ask you one thing before I do this?
Yes.
Can I read out great? Can I read out a quote which is on your website? And
Definitely. Yes, you can indeed. Yeah.
that's great. So, guys, this quote is on his website. I really did like it because it kind of summed up Brian as a person. And also, when you go for his website, look at his images, you get where he's coming from. So Brian quoted, "I'm a lover of nature. That made me realise that the value of connecting to people with the gifts, of course, and that nature selflessly gives us. And it does, it selflessly gives us gifts. And it's really, that quote really drawn me in there. So just on the back of that, I'm just going to ask Brian, firstly, Brian, thank you for joining.
Not a problem,
Brian,
Paul. It's my pleasure. Yeah.
and thank you again. And just to say as well, Brian, can you just tell me more about where your venture started, where the photography aspect started, where you actually got into it, and how you got into it? And if no one knows Brian, Brian, can you introduce and tell everybody what you do?
Yeah, no problem at all. Okay, Paul, thank you. Well,
Pleasure.
basically, photos have always been in my life because many years ago, when my brother and I were younger, my dad had an SLR, a Pentax camera, and with the film, and he used to always go on holidays. And when we got back, developed the spool, and then got excited and put it into one of these books, with the sheet of paper went over to hold it in place. And
Yeah.
so I've always been into photos and stuff. When I used to travel with my work and stuff, I would take photos with my camera phone and all these matters. And of course, when we hit into lockdown, my good friend Paul Masterton, he had said to me, "Why don't you get into photography? Because the photos you take with your phone are really good." And he helped me buy a camera at that time. So that was when I started my journey, was actually just in lockdown, just to be able to get out before I working from home, just for my own well-being in the morning for sunrise, because it felt like I was going out my house to do some photography at sunrise and then driving back, and then that was me, so it was quite good for that. But that's where I all started, and then I got more keen on proper photography with a camera, Paul. So that's where it all
Yeah.
started, and yeah, I just love it now with the connection with nature and what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely see that for your images. And yeah, where did the love of nature come from? So where did the desire to go for walks and take pictures come from originally?
Well, basically, I've always been an outdoors person, because I've done a lot of, used to be a runner and stuff like that, and hiker, and not my no bagger, but I just loved going up mountains and all these kind of things, and being outdoors and cycling and all these things. So I've always just appreciated nature. And then I just decided, that when in lockdown, that photography would be a good way to, just share my passion for being outdoors and in nature. But I've always loved it. I've wild camped, all these matters. So I just love being outdoors, but now I've got a better appreciation of it because I just take my time and connect with nature and just understanding things and just sit, just enjoy things happening, and then you can just get nice photos so people can see it.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things as well is I understand, of course, you have, you've been in contact with Kim Grant and Mally Davis. Can you just
Yeah.
tell me more about that?
Yeah, well, basically, it was to do with the connections because when Kim Grant was one of the first people I used to follow on YouTube when I first started, and then she started Photographic Connections and podcasts. So she brought in Mally Davis, who I really thought was great with his character and the way that he spoke about stuff. And then when he found out that during an interview, mentioned he's got a Facebook page called I See Trees, which I thought, oh, that'll join it because I love my woodland photography.
Yeah.
And then that's when I saw your face come up, and then the next minute I saw one of
That's
you put a
brilliant.
post up, about a YouTube video, and then I went onto the YouTube channel and I found out that you're actually in Edinburgh, and then you
Yeah.
linked on your Clickcast, and I thought, oh, this is great, all these connections through different
Yeah.
people, and here we are, working and sort of working, but in the same place now. So,
That is
but yeah,
amazing, that, isn't it? And in case that the photography community is like, it's a click away, I think, isn't it? And that sounds a bit cheesy because the channel's called Clickcast, but it is. It's you mentioned there. Firstly you went on to discover Kim Grant, and then you discovered Mally Davis, and then you discovered IC Trees, the Facebook group. Is that right?
Yeah,
that's what calling it.
Yeah,
and I was on it. Of course, I post on there regularly as well as yourself, and and it's like you obviously connected to us, and that was a really good way of doing it as well. Because the other thing I really was interested in is you have entered your free images, into the Visual Arts Scotland for the Centenary exhibition in 2024. And one of your images called Reflections, which we will put up, has made it to the to Edinburgh. It was what's the name of the gallery again in Edinburgh? So it's on the Mound of Edinburgh, if I remember right. I always get this wrong. If you can help me out with
the
that.
Royal Scottish Academy, yes.
Scottish Academy, that's right, yeah. I do beg your pardon. It's just, I'm going to I will have to have a look at that myself. I will put this image up on the screen, guys. So this is the image we're talking about. It's entered, Brian's entered into the gallery itself. And Brian, can you tell me more about this image? What actually strikes me about this image is the simplicity of it and the reflections, of course. Can you tell more about this image?
Yeah, most definitely. Well, it was one day I'd been out at Dalkeith Country Park just for a wee recce before the main autumn colours came out, just to have a wee wander around the woodland and all the rest of it. And on my way coming back home, because this was taken at Glatius Reservoir, because I've been there quite a lot during lockdown, photographing it. And I always got an idea in my head that one day it'd be nice just to get a minimalist photograph of the reeds that come out from the bed of the reservoir, because I've seen them lots of times, but you've got to wait for the right conditions. And I went this day, it was a bit misty of a day, but there was not a breath of wind. And I walked up to the reservoir, and then it was just like one of these days of realization when everything slots into place. So with the fog, with no wind, and just when I seen these reeds, because there's virtually the water was like ice, you get the reflection, and then there was quite a lot of them sticking up, but I just got my 200mm focal length on my telephoto lens, and I just pulled out these six reeds, with the reflections, and and I just love the simplicity, and it's one of these moments that you had it visualized for a long time, and it finally came through as an image that I got, and I'm delighted with it. So basically, what they said to me is you've got to I get it all printed and framed up, take it up, and it's what they call pre-selected, and then they'll decide if that's going to be actually exhibited in the Royal Scottish Academy building at the Mound. So but even although I just feel, just to be recognised like that, it's really quite amazing.
And sure, I say best of luck with that as well. Really do wish you the best of luck with that. Hopefully that'll do well, and I'm sure hopefully it will do. Just a couple of things as well. Like I'm just going to put another image up. So Brian, this next image, it kind of speaks for itself. And I'm seeing a sheep on the left-hand side of the screen. And of course, overlooking these mountains there. It is such a beautiful vista shot, and also the scale of it is measured by the sheep on the left. Can you tell me more about this shot?
Yeah, most definitely. This is basically I'd been on one of these Nissy things and it was Gary Goff, but I was up there the day before, a couple of days before, and so I was parked up close to one of these famous locations known as Blee Tarn, which is like for us up in Scotland, it's like a little pond or a reservoir or something, but it's quite famous. But anyway, I was hiking up what I'm looking at, I'm hiking up what they call a hill called the Pike of Blisco, looking over the Langdales.
Yeah.
So basically, I was hiking all the way up, and, I was probably about, maybe about an hour into the hike, and then basically you come along where that sheep is. It's like a ledge that you walk on, but not dangerous, but obviously it's like a ledge, and then it's a sheer drop to the valley below.
It looks like it, yeah. And that's one thing that struck me was because of the scale of the image, it looks huge, the drop with the sheep on the left-hand side there. So that's not so much, is it more of a hill kind of descending down there?
No, it's a steep drop down, but basically when I was walking along, I just saw the sheep. So the way that I framed it up, I just framed it up as if it's just, I called it on the edge, because the sheep's right on the edge of this piece of land looking down, and with these, basically these storm clouds coming in, but I just love the atmosphere, a wee bit light catching the landscape and all that thing. And as you said, the sheep in the grand scale, puts a bit of perspective on it, to give you an idea of the scale. So I got that image, and I started to continue to walk up a wee bit more. And then the further I got up, the weather system came in. And at one point, I actually saw, I think they're called Hedwig sheep from memory.
I think I know what you're talking about.
But I was hiking up, and the weather was coming in. And at one point, it was quite funny because I seen one of these sheep sheltering behind a rock, and I thought, wait a minute, they know better than me. I basically just, because you couldn't see a thing, so I just decided it wasn't worth it. So I double backed, came back, and then got back down to where I was parked up. And then when I seen this image, I thought, oh wow, that's turned out really well, So I was really pleased with it.
Yeah, I like the light as well at the top of the hills there, the mountains there, sorry. Nice golden light there. They also, you got two ends of the spectrum in weather. Of course, you got warmth, and also you got the coldness and the drama in the sky. It's such a great picture. There's so much interest in that one as well. I like that. Great. So, absolutely. Thank you for sharing your images with us as well. Really appreciate that. So,
at all.
Just a little thank you for that. There we go. Back to us here again. So we kind of touched on a couple of things there. Obviously, your interaction with Kim Grant, etc. as well. We're actually having Kim Grant on the program next week, guys. And would you like to join us on that program, or are you busy then?
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, that'd be excellent.
Yeah, that'd be great, because the connection with you and Kim as well is good, because of the work she does. So so Kim Grant will be on the show, and as well as Brian. Brian's going to join us too, so that's a little bit bonus.
Looking forward to it.
But it's going to be a landscape photographers kind of show, you could say. So that's good. And the other guys will be there, Glads and Stevie, of course. So great pictures we just had up on the screen there. Thanks again, Brian. Now, Brian, as well as a photographer, I believe you have other interests.
Yeah. I've been into cycling all my life and things, Paul, and it was always just one of these things that, when I've been all over on my bike, but I've been used to follow the Tour de France and things like that, and going up the mountains and just following the tour. And then one time I actually met a guy, and he was from Scotland. I think he was up Stirling way, but he had a kayak on his roof of his car, and I had just pitched my tent. It was getting dark, and just, as you do, you make conversation with people, and I couldn't believe it was a Scottish guy at the bottom of a famous French mountain. So we buddied up, and the following day we cycled up. I can't remember the name of the mountain now. It doesn't matter. But we got up, and then generally what you do there, we'll go up. You go up to the summit, and you come back down, maybe halfway down the mountain, to wait for the tour to come through. And at this point, there was a bunch of people in camper vans, Scottish and English music and all that kind of stuff. And we ended up just joining these guys. And at that point, that's when I got a wee idea in my head about a camper van, because being a wild camper all my days, I thought this looks like luxury. So we spent the day with them. So that's what I've done. And also in 2012, I decided. It was one of these things I always wanted to do, but never actually done it. But I just decided, right, it's time to do it. So I made up a route, and I cycled around Scotland. And it was well before the NC 500 was known. So I'd done it in about 10 days, and it was about 700 miles, roughly.
Wow.
But at that time, I didn't want to just use a phone. So I bought a Sony CyberShot. It was a 10 megapixel.
10 megapixels. Yeah.
So it was just to document it, to remember it. And it was the old days where you got it printed off in the old 6x4s. But I was glad I bought it, because it was a nice way to remember and to do that. And I bought one of these big fold-out road maps of Scotland, and got a blue marker and marked it all the way out as a memorabilia. It was a good thing to do, and I met lots of lovely people, and I didn't camp that time because it's too much stuff to carry. So I just basically stayed in a combination of youth hostels, one B&B, and another, I don't know what you would call it, but it was called was it the Crook Inn? The Crook Inn.
Never heard of it.
No, when you come down the sort of spine of Scotland through Altnahara, and it looks like something out of Norman Bates's hotel, but I just went because it's full of character and interesting place, and it was great. And you had a bath, and it was like the colour of peat because of where it was located. But
that's interesting. Yeah.
So it was lovely.
So I mean, the travelling itself is interesting. I love that as well, and the kind of thing of stopping off at different say bed and breakfasts, hotels, etc. That's the adventure, isn't it? But it's just up in the morning, fresh again.
You meet lots of nice people, because even in the youth hostels, I met a bunch of guys that were doing some, I can't remember, but it was a point-to-point walk, but it was a long walk, and everybody just shares their own experiences and their stories, and but the only thing that happened at the very beginning of my tour, because I drove to Crane and the first stage of my journey was going over the Rannoch Moor and back down to
Oh,
Glencoe.
beautiful. Rannoch Moor, yeah.
Well, it was beautiful, supposed to be, but when you leave Crianlarich and you go up the Bridge of Orchy and you climb up onto the Rannoch Moor, but it was terrible. It was pouring with rain. It was pouring with rain and windy, and actually I got blown up the Bridge of Orchy. And when I got up onto the summit of the Rannoch Moor, it was like there was caravans rolled over, motorbikes. I got blown off my bike just with the wind. It was carnage, but. So
yeah, because up there the wind is just so fierce in it. When it's windy, it's windy. Right. It's open.
Yeah,
it's wide open. Yeah,
and this was in May, but I was really lucky actually because I couldn't cycle. So basically, there was a chap who was down in Aviemore. I think there was at Fort William. It was Fort William. He was manager of the leisure centre, and he had a big state car, and he said, "Get your bike in the back of the car. You can't cycle. I'll drop you down into Glencoe Village," which he done. And by the time you got down there, it was okay, but it was great that one of the cafes in Glencoe, we were all there, and because I had a bright red jacket, and I walked in, and motorcyclists, "Are you the guy that came off your bike?" And we're all it was like a wee, a gathering of people who'd basically braved to get over the Rannoch Moor down into Glencoe. But it was, and then after that, we got all our clothes were out, got all dried off, and I carried on. And cycled up to where I was staying on that evening. But then after that, the weather was absolutely marvellous. So I'm glad it was on day one, and I wasn't in the middle of the way up further in the remote part of Scotland.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. And I mean, what I love about landscape photography is the travel aspect. We can, even more so, doing woodland photography, what I do, and you do it as well, of course, which right behind you is a beautiful pictures. May want to comment on. We can see birch trees at the back there with a bit of light hitting the back of them. That's really nice. I don't think I've covered that with you, but can you just tell me more about that picture at the back?
Yeah, no problem, Paul. Well, it was only just last week when I was down at, again, Gladfish Reservoir again, because I've got a whole multitude of different types of trees and all the rest of it. And this is a composition. I mean, I don't see trees as trees. I see them as shapes and form and character. And then basically, I've never seen this before, but again, most photographers will know sometimes when you see a scene and light interacts with that scene, it actually draws you in to think, oh, this could make a nice photograph. And, because quite often you just see trees and I see shape and form, but until light's introduced, that then brings a different dimension to it. Yeah. So basically, when I saw these, they're almost like naked. They've lost all the leaves, but the foliage and all the colours, the muted, soft, beautiful, vibrant colours behind them.
It's how you've actually, the post-processing part is quite nice. So you kind of just slightly touched up and things you can see there. And you brought out the yellows in the background as well, which I really do like.
Well, basically what it is, what it was actually, it's just the way that the light, because the light only caught maybe the top third of the frame. Yeah. So you've got that transition from like you say, that luminance and the warmth when it gradually goes down where the light wasn't shining. If I move it, you'll see.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. If my eyes are looking down, I'm not. It's not. I'm looking at the screen there. Yeah, it's really nice. I love that aspect of woodland photography. Is just that light is everything. Because if it's not going to be kind of, if it's not going to be fog or mist or anything, it's got to be light. To get that kind of definition in the tree, to give it more character, to bring the tree out. Because as you know yourself, Brian, it's quite a challenging genre when you're going out and photographing trees. It's a very hard genre.
And also what I was thinking, because I've been there a few times and photographed it, and actually, I'm not an artist in the true sense of the word an artist, but a creator of art in a digital way. But when I was looking through my EVF, it looked like an oil painting. I mean, it was like, just with the way that the colours are, and quite often, people make comments, on your, when they say, oh, it's like an oil painting, but actually I saw it from, looking through my EVF, because just the way that the colours are and the way it's all kind of muted and.
Yeah, I do like it. In case that, that's like you do get people saying things like, oh, it's like a painting, etc. I remember it's different for woodland photography. But when you're doing like, let's say one of the joiners like Stevie or Glads is doing, and someone said it looks like a painting, and I used to, when I was doing street way back, which I was, someone enjoyed at the time, but no, I'll never go back to doing that, to believe it or not. I couldn't, I can't, if I can't photograph people, I just don't like doing it. And someone said, "Yeah, picture looks like it looks like a painting."
Mm-hmm.
And the guy underneath it put, "It's very HDR." I went, "Oh God, I don't want it to be HDR." Well,
No.
that is not HDR. That looks, it's soft.
Mm-hmm.
There is the painting aspect comes into it like a soft palette painting kind of thing. It's not looking like it's been HDR levels or the clarity levels have been dragged right up with the slider.
Yeah.
There's no way
Yeah.
that looks like that, and that's what I like about it. But yeah, when someone said my images look like a painting, I used to think, oh, I've got too much clarity in it.
Oh, aye. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's different with woodland photography because there's so much color and depth in woodlands that you can bring out the best of the yellows, the greens, etc. And yeah, you do get that kind of
Yeah.
soft looking
Yeah.
kind of painting look. So it's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But
yeah,
also, I mean, you'll know as well, Paul, because what I've done, I actually shot this at aperture f5.6, which helps that little drop off, to
you can
give
see
that
that. Yeah,
softening in the background. Yeah.
yeah, I can see that because you have two trees, the two birch trees. Maybe I don't know if I can see it from your back of your head, but yeah, thank you. So the three trees predominantly stick out, and the rest
Yeah.
is to break off. And he's using it 4.5 over 5. I mean,
5.6.
yeah, I mean, was it like the 70-200? Sorry, the 14. Sorry, no, was it 24 to 70 lens up gallery use? Is that right? Not
No, this
200.
was my Tamron 50 to 400.
So 50 to 400, right? Yeah,
a
yeah.
versatile
So
lens.
that's
It's quite good, But
lovely
I think
framed.
that was it. I think that was at about 200 mil actually, to give that slight compression as well.
Right, yeah, I do like. Yeah, I must admit, when I'm doing wheel photography, I do like using the 70 to 200 to compress the shots because it's so great because you can just stand back and just find these little intimate shots and
Yeah,
without
yeah,
any effort. Well, there is a lot of effort finding a composition. Firstly, that's the hardest bit. But
yeah,
with too much effort framing, it helps you frame it easier.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I'm just kind of touching on quite a few things there earlier. But what we're going to do now, Brian, is we're going to head over, or when I say head over, we're going to go over and get more people involved. And it's, of course, it's a gruesome twosome. It's Gladys and Stevie.
Yeah, Brian. So what I like to do, and you've already pressed on it, which was I'll sit there and I'll look for insects, but I'll let the insects come to me, let them settle, and then I'll take photographs. The fungi I can go out and find. Yours is a wee bit harder because you've got to find your composition, like I say. So do you go in? I think you've already said, like most photographers that's come on here, you don't have a thing in your head when you go out. You find it when you go out, and I think that's a better source. Do you find that yourself?
Yeah, I definitely, yeah. I mean, no, don't get me wrong. There are times because if I've got another wee project I've got is I'm photographing fallen sycamore leaves.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah.
I just like the way that they, but the thing is, Stephen and Gladys Paul, but there's times I'm maybe going out thinking I want to photograph those, but again, it's not a pressure to get one. That's just in the back of my mind because I know if I'm going to woodland where they are them, and then I've been there walking through, and then suddenly my eye sees something else. A fungi, for example, could be a nice fungi, and but again, I like I just I don't sit and take a photo straight away. I'll maybe just sit down, study it for a little time, and then think about how I'm going to compose it. And quite often I'll just use my phone. You hear a lot of people saying that's a good way because you're not having to get your camera out and it becomes more rigid in that way. And then just look and see what's still around about it, what the arrangement of them's like, and then just run it through my mind. And then at that point, I don't even think I'm thinking about it. It's just it's hard to describe into words, but it just kind of makes it fit or it looks good. And then once I settle on that, that's when I start thinking about, okay, then the technicalities. Can I get it in one image? Do I need to focus that? Do I need to put my aperture right down to f13, or depending on the way. And then I start getting into the aspects of that image to think, well, how high is it? What's the difference in size and all that kind of stuff? And at that point, that's where I then decide. And then I just take my time and take the photo and the way it is, and then that's me. But but it makes it sound simple, but that whole process might take me 40 minutes, something like that.
But the most important thing, Brian, sorry, say the most important thing, because I know it happens when I do it, and probably what I use. Do you smile when you have a look at your screen once you've took that for you?
I have an internal, aye. And that's, don't get me wrong, Steve, there's times that, I actually find it quite, not astounding, maybe it's too strong a word, but what you see sometimes, I mean, I think we've got a leaf on one of them, and actually, I was beside myself looking at it, and I thought, this is just absolutely wonderful. Droplets of water, little veins or colours, textures, patterns. It's like, it just makes you feel so grateful that you can actually see it. That's how I feel at times. It's and at times I was kind of trying to understand emotions I was feeling at the time. How's this making me feel? So you don't want to forget that emotion or that feeling or interaction you got with the subject matter.
Yeah, definitely.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I like that. And of course, that gives it a catalyst for you to, when you're naming images as well, and when you go back home and you put in post-processing, you always try to reconnect to that picture and then try to bring out what you've seen there. Because post-processing, now is so complex now. And we try to recreate what we've seen with the feeling we had. It's not so much what we've seen, but the feeling, how we felt as well. And trying to get that feeling out to the participant or the person who's looking at it. So, it's really interesting.
I mean, another thing I do, I don't know if it's what you guys do, but it was something that I started doing, and I don't know, it was just something on my own, but because when you're taking a photo, you see in the viewfinder, effectively that's a JPEG version of what you've taken the photo. But the minute you lift it into if you're shooting in RAW, I mean, I'm sure you guys are shooting in RAW, it comes into your computer as effectively the flat image that's been, that the data's been captured on the. But what I do, the first thing I do is get all the data off my SD card, and then I put the SD card back in my camera, and then when I'm choosing the photographs that I'm editing, I'm looking at the back of my viewfinder, what white balance that I set, because I sometimes don't rely on the standard white balance. My typical white balance settings is about 5,400 Kelvin, because that's a good starting point.
That's all far from mine.
But when you start changing, but when you start changing it, and but to me, when you see it now, I mean, I'm using a mirrorless camera, but that's how you see the scene when you've composed it. But when it comes into post-processing, of course, it looks different, and you're thinking, how do I get back to what I've seen? So I just use that as a wee tip. I'm looking at the back of my viewfinder with the data on the SD card as that JPEG view you see, and at least it gives you some visualization of what you saw when you actually took the photograph in the field.
That's a good thing about mirrorless cameras, but you get that JPEG look, and you can see that, as you say. I've got a DSLR, a D850, which I'm really more than happy with for the time being. But I will be crossing I'm not going to say the dark side, but I used to think, oh, no, mirrorless. But a 45 megapixel is pretty much all I need just now. The problem is I think the bells and whistles that comes along with a mirrorless camera, and it's a lighter camera to use as well. And the lenses are far lighter. They're mainly f4 lenses, isn't there? I mean, there's a lot of people going for f4 now instead of the heavy 2.8s, I've noticed.
Well, I've got my 24-70 is a 2.8 Sony.
Yeah,
and
that's what I've got.
I mean, I don't see them as heavy because I've only got two lenses. That's it.
Yeah, that's what you need.
I've recently upgraded to the Tamron 50-400 because I wanted to get more reach, intimate shots in the landscape, because that's something else that I'm really interested in. Or it might be trees on the side of a hill, or, I got some fairly recently. I was on a photography tour with Colin Pryor, who I've admired all my life.
Oh, yes, I read about that, Colin Pryor, He's quite big up there, And do you do workshops at all, Brian? Because a lot of the stuff you do is quite interesting. You're very... you're very articulate how you talk about your work as well. I mean, do you do any workshops at all in everyone?
Nope.
No, it's just someone you should consider. You are really good. I think your passion comes across very well, but you're very articulate at the same time. You actually explain very well to people. We pick up very easily as well. So yeah, I
No,
think
I mean, no, I've not, Paul. You know what? I've never. I just love the you guys that are putting out YouTube videos and all the rest of it. For my that I'm not saying it doesn't interest me, right? To be quite
yeah,
honest,
yeah,
I'm not into that because to me, sitting behind a computer editing isn't my thing. I worked in an office for years sitting behind a computer, and I
yeah.
want to be out in the field, do everything in the field as best I can, and come back and do as less minimal post processing as possible.
Yeah,
But what
yeah.
what 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 gives me the interest that I love? I've got a Facebook photography page that
Yeah, yeah. I've
I
seen that.
I just I'm just sometimes I have to remind myself because I've got quite a lot of following that I sometimes
Yeah.
that I really appreciate. And the good thing is for me, it's almost like I'm taking people on the journey of the places, where I'm going, where I'm seeing, what I'm doing, and and the power of Facebook for me is that I've got a very good engagement and
Yeah.
right across the ocean in the States, Australia, a lot of them are expats or have had
Oh yeah.
family relations and all that kind of stuff. And some of the feedback I get is absolutely, and for me, that's such a good feeling for me because I know that's a connection that people are seeing that I'm bringing to them wherever they are, back to where their roots lie in the homeland in Scotland. And for
Yeah.
me, that's
It's good.
as much
Yeah.
a buzz and a good feeling that I need. And I get lovely comments and engagement. So that's mainly, and that's
Yeah.
all I want.
I've, I've been looking at your Facebook page and the engagement is quite good because my Facebook page has not got as much engagement as yours, and I think you are very well. As I say, that goes back to how you articulate yourself, etc. And I think everyone sitting here tonight, I think we all want our socials to do well to get engagement, and I think some people have got, some people haven't. Myself, I'm certainly not got. I do workshops in photography, but not much. I've just started doing it, and I've used YouTube as a catalyst to, like most photographers, as you know, because you can't make a living for photography now, as you know. It's difficult, and I don't care what anyone says because selling prints, as you know, Brian, it's very difficult. So you need to add more to your game because the social media has killed that side. But guys, I mean, going to like just a photo of us, really. What Brian said there. I mean, do you spend a lot of time in your social media to interact with people? Do you come up with ideas to engage more? Stories, giving stories to what you've done that day, like a little journal of what you've done, like a diary kind of thing. I don't. I should really do.
Sorry, the followers that I do. So what I do is I take 2 weeks, maybe every 6 months or 4 months, and I'll take 2 weeks where I still post 1 or 2 photos, but ones that are like older that I've been sitting there waiting to like do my very small editing on them. But what I'll do is they 2 weeks that I'm not doing much, I'll actually go into the algorithm and say, who do you less interact with? And I'll actually make an effort and go and interact with the people, maybe reach out to them. I've had quite 2 or 3 macro photographers in Norway and that have been struggling with what they think is their photography. They think the photography wasn't as good as what it really was. And then just reaching out to them and saying, no, there's nothing wrong. Just get your inspiration back. It's more about keeping that passion because, I think we all have the same problem. You look at the photo and you go,
yeah,
I wish I could
definitely.
have done a better picture, and it's all that mindfulness. And sometimes if you're not getting a lot of engagement, and this is what I keep saying to people, if you're not getting a lot of engagement on your pictures, whereas you see like the difference between me and Wee Mad Beastie, right? David has like I don't know 178,000 followers or something. Anyway, I didn't keep up with how many followers he's got. 178,000, and I've got just over or just under 11 or 1,200. Right, as long as I get 40, 50 likes, I don't care if I get 1 like. That doesn't bother me. The whole point is you've got to think of it as in perspective, as how much engagement are the big guys getting. So if they've got 10,000 followers, but they're getting 100 or 200 likes. It's all about percentage, and get that in your brain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right.
Be appreciative to the people that like your footy and appreciate it,
Yeah.
and less about what the big guys are doing, what the professionals just love what you do yourself.
Yeah, it's a good message to people starting out in photography as well, that not to beat yourself up about trying to get as many members as you can. Appreciate what you've got, work what you've got, engage what you've got. What about you, Glads? We kind of spoke about engagement on social media. How do you go about doing that yourself?
I don't plan anything. I just go with the flow. And
yeah, okay.
And to be honest, I mean, I really appreciate the followers. I mean, some of the followers I've got, I've known them for quite a good length of time, and to be honest, and some of the people from the digital artwork were absolutely fantastic when I first started, because my photography was appalling when I first started. It really was, and I just felt so supported by some of the digital art people. If it wasn't for some of the digital art people, I don't think I would have got into photography. You know, people like Richard, Paul, Jodie, people like that were really supportive when I started. And I really appreciated that very much. You know, and I met a few of them, like Nicola, and I've also met Robert, and all were really lovely people, very down to earth. You know, it's just, I like the community more. I just like that community aspects of people talking. And I also like seeing, like, for example, Richard's work, he's just digital art and he does animation. And I just love seeing his perspective of how he animates his work. Yeah. And I also love when people go abroad, like some of the women in street photography, women in street, they go to all different locations and document. And the locations I probably will, you know, if I get the opportunity to see it, it'd be amazing. But just to see it, be able to see through their perspective how they see the world, it's just incredible. Because you can do it literally behind your screen, and some of the stories that they write on it as well, it's just lovely. And also, I love the Women in Streets from New York, the lady that does that. It kind of brings a community together a bit. So there's some aspects that are really good about it, you know?
Yeah, I think we all do that, don't we? Yeah.
It has its pitfalls, like anything, but unfortunately, because now I start going back to work, I don't have as much time. So when I do have time, I'll go through photos and like photos and comment, but I don't have as much time as I used to, and I miss that. I absolutely miss it, because it's like what you said, Brian. It's just so nice to have an outlet to express yourself, especially with your mental health, and especially with the way the world's going. It's you know, it's just really important to actually feel like a human being, because sometimes we forget that. We're so like robots, and we kind of live in our own bubble, and we forget that it's actually a bigger world out there.
Yeah. Oh no, it's and even from my point, I mean, there was sometimes I have a little laugh to myself, because there was one time there was a lady in Colorado bought a print from me, and I was quite surprised. You know, oh, why did you buy that one, Edie? Because it was very lush greens, but it was a nice photo with sun coming in through the woodland. It's close to me. And we started just chatting, you know, to one. She's like, oh, but where I live, we have nothing like that. You know, I'm away in the middle of Colorado. We've got coyotes, wolves and bear, and, you know, we don't have colours like that in our landscape. And I just want to have something, again, because obviously the descendancies and all the rest of it, I want to have something that changes, you know, my look on, you know, on a day looking at a print on a wall. And I just thought, oh, that's amazing. And she's actually just recently bought another one from me, you know. But again, and I remember Joe sent her one time, oh, I want to come over and look at the beautiful aspens that you've got, you know, and but not knowing their area. I said, I'll take my tent, I can hike and camp and all that. She said, you'll not hike and camp here because the coyotes will get you.
Yeah, that'll be a bit scary. Yeah, cool. Yeah,
bears and
you see, you forget that. You forget that the other parts of the world, that it's not as safe, is it?
No, exactly. You know, but no, it's, you know, it's all, and it's just, I mean, you know, I'm not one. I don't look at analytics at all, and the only thing that it actually caught me out last Christmas and New Year, because I think Facebook recognises stuff. Because quite often I'll get a thing from Facebook, oh, you've had so much engagement in the last month and whatever. And, you know, I thought, oh, that's great. But it was last Christmas and New Year where somebody got a message from them just saying, congratulations, you've got over 1,000 followers. And I thought, where did that come from? How did that arrive? And then very quickly it was I think a month later it was 1,500. Like, and that at that point it made me think, gosh, where are all these people? Who are they? And that was it. And I just thought, well, that's, for me, given that I didn't even think about it, it was a bit of a, it was a lovely surprise, because it makes you think people clearly, like what I'm doing, and because that's the way I look at it. It's just like a documentary of where I am, what I'm doing, what I see. None of this was planned. It just happened, it just happened.
Nothing was planned for me. It just, what happened was someone said, why don't you join Instagram and follow my photography? And I just started thinking to myself, what am I going to do? I'm not going to do selfies. I'm too old for this.
Oh, no.
So what am I going to do? So I basically did photos, but they were rubbish when I first started. But like you, nothing was planned. I just go with the flow, and I don't look at analytics or anything like that. I just go with the flow of it all and see how I get on.
No, it was my good friend. It was my good friend Paul Masterton, because he's a photographer.
Paul Masterton, I've heard of him. Yeah, he's an Edinburgh.
So it was him. He had said to me, just rather than having it on your own. And this is where it all started. He helped me buy a camera and everything, and they said to me, don't put your photos on social, because what you're doing is good. And at the time, I didn't even think my photos were good. I'm just looking at photos I'm taking and just thought, because I've done it for years with cameras, and I cycled around Scotland in 2012, and that was the first camera I bought, was a Sony Cybershot, and it was just to document, my journey in 6x4s that used to get printed out, but it was him. He said to me, start off a separate account in Facebook for your photography, and I done that, and I had no more thought about it, and just started off just putting something out, and not even thinking. Slowly but surely, people started liking it, and then you would get comments, and it just kind of, I can't understand how it's got to where it is, but you know what?
You're doing it right. That's the main thing, isn't it? Yeah. And I think there's that thing where there's people who get so hung up on likes, etc., and there's people like us who really appreciate when someone takes their time to look for the images, to read our stories. It's kind of a fulfilling thing. It does fulfill, you as a person, as a photographer. So I think, you're right. And it's, one of the things is people get buy likes. They can buy likes online, believe it or not.
Right.
Yeah, you can. Or with YouTube, you can actually get subscribers. But YouTube's getting more savvy to that, where they're actually banning people's accounts for doing it as well. That's me knackered then.
It's not all fake, though, by the likes. It's not real, is it?
It's not real. No, I don't know why people do it. It's kind of... I think psychologically they think it looks great. It's like bling. It's like, that kind of thing is like, look at my medallion. It's better than yours, that kind of thing. Although, I'll say back in the 70s, of course. I don't think it's relevant. It's not a medallion. But you know what I mean? It's kind of like the jewelry around their neck, And you're right, there's no engagement. So if you're putting people up there who... maybe 2,000 people you're buying likes, you're spending money, people not actually engage in your work. They're not pressing like, they're not talking to you. So it's just like just mainly to look your page look good. So I don't see the sense in it. Yeah. But ourselves, of course, we do appreciate when we wake up in the morning, someone puts a nice little comment up, talks about our pictures, and they're interested. That's what it's about. It's about, because we put that time in, what we do, put a lot of effort and time in. It's nice to get a little thank you. Yeah,
no, absolutely, and that's the other thing that people have said to me. You don't need to spend a lot of time answering everybody that sends a comment, but I do, because my mindset is, if somebody's been kind enough to look at a photograph, write a nice comment, get a feeling of emotion that they've felt from it, nice. To me, the value is replying to them in a way, because if somebody's been time to take that, to me, it's all about communication and people to people. If somebody takes time to do something, you've got to show your appreciation back for that.
Yeah.
And it works full circle.
I totally agree with you. That's what I do. If people comment, I will always comment back. So I just think, it's kind of the fact that they've even looked at my pictures and made a comment, And
that's a good point.
It's also nice to look at their pictures as well. It's not just about your own pictures, also looking at other people's pictures and appreciating their work. And actually, some people that work I look, I just love the fact that I know I may not ever go to those places that some of these people visit, in my lifetime, but it's just lovely to have that journey, to be able to see it through someone else's eyes. And and especially when you see videos like, like some of the videos I've seen from Joanna Ginto, it's just so calm and so relaxing. It just calms you down, because we live in a world that is so hectic that sometimes you need that peace of mind.
You do. And I think we mentioned that earlier about us getting headspace, see we picked up on it, and Brian kind of talked about his time he spends in the woods, etc. And I do like it as well, because I mean, we all kind of want escapism, and day 9 to 5 jobs or whatever we do, is just to get out, even without a camera, just to even, like, I go scouting for locations and I don't take the camera. I think Brian will probably do that as well. He's been a landscape photographer. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, at times I do. Yeah.
And that's good, because you just kind of don't feel rushed or anything. You just kind of slow right down, as you mentioned. And then when you visit that location, you took your time, as you mentioned, you slow things down, but you get to know where you're going. You can get there fast. So if you're in the right weather conditions, like mist, etc., you've already scouted that location, so you can get there. So a practical point of view is great, and for the psychological point of view, it's even better. Yeah.
I mean, quite often, that's what a lot of my photography, some of it is planning, because I do some astral stuff, and photo pills is good for that, and that takes a wee bit of planning, but and it's having the vision to think where you're going to go, or if it's a harvest moon or a super moon or whatever, but I mean, there's been times I was up in Glenesk, a place called Loch Lee. I'd been up there a couple of times. I thought, I'm going to go up, and I was up in late December last year, and I woke up in the morning, my tent, because I picked it up, it was frozen, but I was nice and cozy. But on that night, I was walking out to the reservoir to photograph, because I knew it's dark skies, and as I walked out the path, here in front of me is the Milky Way, right over Invermark Castle. So it's about
amazing.
But that's the other thing. I mean, I'm a firm believer of just being out there. Get out there, because if you're not out there, you didn't see stuff. And I've seen some stuff. I've got photos that I wouldn't have got if I hadn't have made the effort just to go and get out there. And you meet some absolutely. I've met gillies, and I've seen people hanging stags in barns and stuff. But it's but that's country life. That's what you see. And I've had and I think that's the other thing. I think it's I'm keen just to be outdoors. I love just being outdoors, and the more times you're out there, that's when you see stuff, And some of I've had a couple of images that are being. I like entering competitions, because it's always, I like to see what happens and all the rest of it. So I got a wee surprise. There was one day again. I think it was December or January, and I had like you said, Paul, I had a set idea, composition. Just outside Pennycook, looking back on the Pentland Hills, and it was all nice. The atmosphere. I was working at the time, and I could see it coming home. And the first thing I got my bag, and I went to where I needed to go, up and down a big dip at the trees. It's just on the other side of the Pennycook estate. So I'm standing there getting ready to compose the image. I had everything all set up, and it's all about. I turned around, because I'm very mindful. You always look around you, because you never know what's going to happen. Anyway, the light wasn't happening, but I could see there was fog and mist coming in from the west, and this light was just, the hues were, the pinks and all that you get at the time of the year. And I thought, I turned around, and there's a bunch of beech trees that I've photographed before, but of course, with the snow, they had the snow in the front of them, and you could see the darkness, the contrast with the bit that hadn't had the snow. But all this atmosphere that was coming in behind, I thought, I grabbed my camera, I ran, and just snapped it. I had to, and it was, and within 2 minutes later, you couldn't see a thing. I mean, it was a complete whiteout, with snow. But when I got home, and I just seen it in the back of the camera again, and it was just the hues and the pastel colours and the atmosphere, and I thought, God, that's amazing. I was, I couldn't believe it. And then I thought, oh no, wait a minute, I've shot that at 70 mil, and I'm going to have to crop in, quite a bit to get the this, because normally I would have photographed it on my 200mm, but I just didn't have time. I just saw it, grabbed it off my tripod, ran, and fired off about 3 shots.
You've got to be that way. Yeah, you're right, and it's of course if you've got to be in it to win it, and you've got to be, it's hard to actually sometimes when you rush yourself to actually think about not so much a composition. The composition you're going into, of course, but to the settings. It's like that's where the skill comes in. Like we're as landscape photographers, we've got to know what we're shooting at. If it's f11, do we want a shallow depth of field? Do we want to go a bit higher than that? You can be fingers and thumbs, and it can be cold, and it does. I think in photography, like any type of genre in photography, like wildlife, there's a lot of patience in that. Macros as well, you could say. In street photography, you get the danger of confronting people. But in landscape, it's all about waiting in the cold, early in the morning, 6 in the morning, pitch black in the morning, whatever. So photography in every genre, we've all got our we could say like our love to hate things, but we do brace them. We get used to them.
Yeah.
But getting up in the morning for 3 in the morning in the summer sometimes is absolutely. I still love it. And then I've got into a habit of like actually, let's get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. By then your sun sets away, etc. So, guys, what I'm going to do is put some images up for Brian. We've talked a bit about different types of, mainly talked about ourselves, really, haven't we? So what we're going to do is put something up more about Brian, because Brian's the guest of the show tonight. Brian, I'm just going to put this image up. I really loved it. It's an image when I was scrolling through the images you sent to us, this one really caught my attention because of the colours and also the attention to detail in regards to the droplets of the rain on it, and just the background, how it just comes out as well. Can you just talk more about this image and where it was taken? Well, not where it was taken, but how it was taken and what type of lens, etc. you did use.
Yeah, no problem. Well, basically, as I said, it was I just got an idea one day. I was just, like you say, I was walking through the woods one day, didn't have my camera with me, and I could start to see the leaves falling on the ground. And I just love sycamore leaves, they just have that lovely, pattern and texture and shape. And then at that point, I thought, I got my phone out and I thought, actually, this would make a good wee project to try to capture sycamore leaves at different stages.
Yeah, you did mention that, didn't you, about your project?
As the fall. So on this day, I went back out another day with my camera in mind, and I was just walking along the path. It'd been raining earlier in the day, and this was during the day. It wasn't in the morning. It was probably just approaching lunchtime. And I walked off the path. I always get off paths at times because that's where you start to find all the little, hits and secrets and things you wouldn't see if you stuck on a path. So I walked off the path, and this place was covered in fallen leaves. So at this time, it was a case of, right, dump the bag and just walk about or stand or kneel in an area and scan and see what your eye comes to. And eventually this came, and it was immediately, I thought, I had to put my glasses on and get up close and have a look and see, and then I thought, oh, wow, it's got droplets on it. And it was more the structure of it. You can see the veins coming through, but also the fact that, to my eye, what I saw was it's as if it's fallen, not long recently. You've got some greens coming into the, maybe 2/3 of it. You've got a wee bit orange and then browns. You've got all that colours of the starting of the decay when the leaves start to fall to symbolise, this wee project that I had. And I thought, oh, that's quite a, and it's lying, you can see ferns in the background there. And at the very outset, I said to myself, right, it's going to be a square crop project, sycamore leaves, with the stalk coming out from not necessarily the bottom right, but anywhere, from in that area. So I've got quite a few of them, but and it's all about what you see in nature. I mean, you look at that. Sometimes I keep looking at the image on my high-res monitor, and I just look at it and I think, look what nature gives us. And again, it all goes to the fact that if you didn't spend time and check an area and have a good look up closely, how many times do you walk past leaves on the ground and didn't even stop to look at them? I do it maybe I do it more than I should, I don't know, but I just love it, and it's,
I do like that. I really do
I
like
love the decay. I love the
Mhm.
fact
it.
you've got a little bit of green life in it, but then you've got this dark decay coming through. So you get the feeling that it's now reaching to the end of autumn and it's approaching more to
Mhm.
winter.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I do love this time of year. I think we all do love autumn, and we've had a great autumn as well, guys. Do not think because of the
It's
amount
been
of rain we've had, etc. We've got a lot of colours changing very quickly this year, but that is really great. And as you mentioned in regards to the veins coming out, etc. The detail is just it's impeccable work. It's impeccable, really.
Yeah.
I really do
No,
enjoy looking at that image. So yeah, we'll
that
just
was
come out with
that
that.
was just taken. That was just taken with my Sony lens. But it was quite good. The Sony lens has got a very good. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's got a very good close focusing distance. And
Yeah.
but the benefit is now. I mean, obviously it was lying flat, so therefore the depth of field wasn't an issue. I just got straight over it. And I can't even remember. I think it was F8, probably that one from memory.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see actually dropping off the focal point there, and F8 does get pretty much a lot in the camera, as you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes like some people, did you photo stack it or anything, or just a pretty much one off?
No. What I done, I actually did photo stack it, but when I got home, I could see that it was either F8 or F10. I can't remember offhand, Paul, exactly. But
Yeah.
sometimes I do photo stack as a backup, because if you see something like this and you've maybe only taken one image at F8 or 10, and then you start to look closely and you see it softening in the areas that you didn't want it, you'd be kicking yourself. So I tend to take a focus, and with this bit lying flat, I mean, again, with the benefit of the Sony camera and the most modern ones, when you use the what do they call it? It goes a colour. It tells you your depth of field where you've got your focus plane.
It's like
peaking.
Aye, and I could see on it, but it was pretty much focused, right the way through.
Yeah.
And the good thing is with these cameras now with the mirrorless, if you zoom in manually, I was at 11 times, and you can move around the image and see the sharpness and the clarity. And I thought, right, okay, that's going to be fine. But I did focus stack it just as a backup. But when I got it home, I could see, the image was as good as it needed to be with one still.
Brian, sorry, Brian, see the lighting on this? Was this natural lighting, or it was natural lighting?
Natural. I don't use.
Yeah.
I don't use. I mean, it's. I know I've seen people using little lights and all the rest of it, and I know you can get a nice atmosphere of feeling, and I've seen one at my camera club where you can change the Kelvin value, but I've always just said to myself, well, I love nature, so I'm just going to use what ambient light nature provides to give that luminance to the subject matter. And it saves you carrying extra gear.
Exactly.
When you're doing landscape, because you're walking everywhere, you're getting your own hills, you're going through woodlands, you're walking to your subjects all the time, and it's long distance. It's really nice. I'm going to come out with that one just now.
Oh, this has got a good story, this one. Oh, God.
Beautiful monochrome shot.
Well, oh God, where do we go with this? Now, I've got another set of woods close to me, and waterproof's on, hood up, tied tight, crawling through under conifers and and anyway, I was crawling through and I saw this group of fungi and I thought, oh wow, this is special. This is quite good. And this was again I had my 70-200 on because I didn't want to get too close. So I shot it at 70mm, and that would have probably been at what would it have been now? I can't remember my f-stop.
That's okay. It's in sharp. It's really for you. You've got everything. They've got the bokeh in the background, so the shallow depth of field is just dropping back. But everything in the shots, including the spider, is really sharp there.
Well, the funny thing is, I didn't even know there was a spider there because I mean, this is these like anything. These aren't big, you know what I mean? But so again, I was lying flat on my stomach. And I'm fortunate. I've got a tripod that it's not got a center column, so you can get the legs right down to the ground. And then I thought, again, I was manually focusing this one through the EVF because of the arrangement of it. And it was only when I was doing that I thought, God, there's a spider in there. And of course, at that point, you get I want to, but again, it's dark. But you know, it was dark in the woods. But again, it was middle of the day, so this is where the light's effectively coming from. But deep in the woods. But when I seen the spider, and you can't actually see it in the image, but on that, I mean, it was like a family, because on that fungi next to the one that is dropping down underneath the cap of it, there was another little cluster of them in there.
Right, okay.
But yeah, just and then I decided this had to be monochrome because there was far too much colour in the original image that was detracting from the key elements to me with the fungi, because the way that the fungi all work together, and what I liked about it, the fungi are perfect. They've got that slices and cuts, and and they're all grouped together, and with the corn that pine cone thing sitting there, and the spider just makes it. When I saw it, I thought, oh my gosh, this is wonderful,
It's a really nice shot. I'm a big fan of monochrome shots as well when it comes to nature. I really do like that one. Let's go put another one up.
Okay.
Nice. A really big shot. Really nice.
I love the mist. I love the mist.
Yeah.
Where the mist goes through the forest.
And it just drops off, doesn't it? Drops off nicely as well. You can actually look in the back there. Are they beech trees or these pine? These are pine, are they?
On the right's pine and left beech. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that. And it just with the trees in the background there, just in the backdrop, just dropping back there in the mist, just looks so nice. It's it makes your eye just travel right through the image. It was really nice.
Yeah. I love the fact it looks like a painting, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's quite a nice shot. And it's like the you've got obviously the archway, you've got the trees kind of joining together, and you've got obviously they walk through there, taking your eye right through to the back there, hitting the back. I really like that shot. It's really nice. It makes your eye travel through it, takes you through the image. So we'll get on. These are really nice images.
Well, that's the one that I was talking.
Is that the one you were talking about, Brian?
That's what I was talking about. I mean, but that's the one I was talking about. And then I entered some photographs into the Scottish Landscape Photographer of the Year. And just done it, never thought anything of it. And time went on, and next minute, I can't remember what it was. I got an email or something, and they just said, the new website's up, and the winner's a guy called Brian Pollock, and blah, 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 all the rest of it. And I went, and it was one night, I shouldn't have done it, but it was about 11 o'clock at night or whatever, and I was getting ready to go to my bed, and I thought, I'll have a look at the website and have a look, and it was all the categories in landscape, and I'm going down, and you had the guy, the winner, the runner-up, and it was a monochrome, and then highly commended, and there was my image, and I thought, oh my God, what's it doing? My first thought was, what's it doing there? I didn't feel, and I was too high. I was too high to go to my bed.
Rightly so.
That's such a stunning photo. I mean, that's my favourite one out of all of yours. It's just because the way the colours. I love the way the colours are layered, and the way the trees are very minimalistic.
Yeah. Beautiful colours.
I know, and it's when you look at it, I actually, I've spent a lot of time looking at it now because I'm starting to see different relationships with the trees now, because sometimes I don't see trees as trees. I see them as a story or shapes, profiles, That's how I sometimes see my trees. But it's been
Sorry, Brian. See, you know what I see for it? Every photo I think should affect you in some way, especially the landscape. I can feel the wind, because you can see where the winds went through the trees, and you can actually feel it where the snow's hit and just left it there like the painting. But I can actually feel the wind as it's gone through. It almost gives you a chill.
I agree with Stevie on that. And also, it's not just that. It's just the way the layers of the colours are, and the fact that you've made the trees look abstract. It's very different to a lot of landscape photos, It's like a different angle, and it's not something you would necessarily. Usually, when people picture trees, they do the full detail of it. But you've actually made it look more abstract, really, and it's beautiful.
It's what nature's done. It's what nature's done. It's actually painted out the fence that runs along the whole of the actual picture, but there's no fence there because the snow has just took it out and painted over it. It's lovely.
You can almost just see it. Just take what it does, Stephen. It actually comes off at an angle to the
you can
to the
see
bottom
it there
of
going down.
Yeah. But what you've got with that is in front of that, it's just a big dip.
Yeah,
it gets a dip and it comes up high again, But
Yeah.
but the funny thing is with this photo, when I first got it, I'm in a thing called the School of Photography, a guy Mark Newton that runs, and that's where I've learnt most of my photography. And he's obviously been in the game a long time. And when I first posted it, he said to me, "That's a winner." That was months ago. Of course, when I got the thing in the Scottish Landscape Photography of the Year, highly commended, and it's in their book, and I messaged him, and he's like, "What did I tell you?" And he said, "What it is, like I think what you touched on, Glad." He said it's different. It's the aspect ratio you've given it, the crop, the focus to attention really draws you into the, kind of that perception, which. And only done that because you'll know, Paul, in the woodland. Sometimes you want to exclude the sky because it draws your eye at the frame.
Yeah.
But with all that, it was, I'll not forget that night for the rest of my life because what was going on in the background was absolutely. It was -7 degrees. I remember that it was freezing cold. It was -7, and all that was like fog coming in, and that scene was disappeared from my eyes 2 minutes after I got the photo, but.
Yeah.
God, did I know it was no cock a hoot going back to my car to get home to get loaded up in the computer.
I also love the fact that you've used the snow to make it very minimalistic, because if it was a green grass, it would lose the whole texture of that picture.
Yeah.
Because you've got snow, it's actually it's mineralized the trees, and you've got like motion in the skyline. When you go in the back, there's some kind of motion in the background, like Steve said. It's just beautiful, really is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And say there is that my favourite aspect of the picture is the pastel colours in the background. Did you get a panel of that? Was that a stitched panel? Or was that just like a one-off kind of crop?
No. Well, as I say, Paul, I shot that quite far away at 70mm. So basically,
that makes sense.
That I had photographed it. I've been there and photographed it because when I found, when you find a particular arrangement of trees, you keep going back, or I keep going back, and
Absolutely.
And that was the one thing, and that's what we were talking about earlier. I think I knew because I reacted quickly. I knew in my mind where my point of focus would be. It's far away, so it was in infinity. Didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And it was more about keeping it steady because I didn't even have time to change it to my tripod. So I literally ran over. My heart's pounding. I remember I used to like watching the biathlon cross-country skiing, and I was doing the hold my breath and fire off the shot, so my body was still. But at that point, I knew in my mind where that focus was within, because that's not, the trees go further out, and drop away off way down to the left. So I knew that's where I was. But it was all about that mental memory to go back and be able to react quickly,
Yes, it's a lovely picture. Oh, we'll have one more picture, guys. It's a belter. It's a cracker. I really do love it.
Gosh,
it's so inviting. It just draws you in, and it's this autumn. It's just absolutely. What I like about that shot is the light. I can't point to it because. Can you see my cursor? Can you see my cursor? See that, guys?
Yeah.
So I'm loving this here. This is a bit of love with the light going against. No, is this? I don't know if this is an elm tree. Is that, if I'm right, it's an elm tree, isn't it? Sure, it's an elm tree.
No, I think it is that one, because there's a mixture of beech and.
Yeah, that's a beech there. Yeah,
that is Yeah.
Yeah, that's an elm tree. So the light hitting against the elm tree, and also you can see the detail in the moss at the bottom there. There's so much interest in that there, and you can look at the back. Was that actually just after the rain, Brian?
Aye, this was just last week.
All right,
Paul and everyone. So basically, again, this is a composition that I've photographed, and I've actually got a compilation of images at different seasons with snow, spring, winter, where there's just no leaves and they're all bare. So again, when I come back from the Colin Pryor tour, my first idea was I need to get back to that. And this is just 5 minutes up the road from me. This is the beauty. I just love what I've got on my doorstep. So again, I just thought I'm going to go back there. But it was another, a bit like what you're saying, Stephen. I'd been in the woods from 10 o'clock in the day until I was there until the 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But I got to that point, and again, you get that feeling of almost overwhelming when I've seen the colours, when I've seen the carpet of leaves, and I saw I was like, oh my God, this is it. But there was no light. It had been raining pretty much all morning. Anyway, I thought, right, I had some food with me. I got my tripod set up, and I'm set up on a bank, tight against a tree, and then I met a girl. She was walking my dog, and she said, "Well, Brian, it's a lady that she was one of the first persons that bought a print from me, and I didn't recognise her
because
her hair was a different colour." But anyway, I was chatting to her, and what you doing? So I'm just here, and I'm waiting on things changing, and must have been. I don't know. I took a few shots because initially I thought if I didn't get any light, at the very least, I wanted to capture a photograph of in the autumn colours because they're still beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then as the time was going on, I could see above me that light appeared to be improving. So I just thought, right, I'm just going to sit about for a while. And my camera was set up and I just walked around, just looking for other ideas or other things to think about. And then suddenly, the light, clearly is coming in from the right of the frame. And actually, it was so strong, I've had to dial back the actual exposure and luminance with a grad filter pulling it in from the right because it was actually overpowering.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, that, to me, when I look at it, you can't beat wetness on trunks of trees that give that luminance, but the contrast, to the bits that don't have it. And you can see it, just radiating right the way through out the middle of that woodland and right the way through to the greens, towards the left-hand side. But again, it was just one of these moments when it all happened. I was there, I was ready. And to actually be there and witness it is quite an experience that it's difficult to quantify into words.
Well, those, Brian, a gallery didn't need to use a polarizer because the range kind of muted the colours and have actually, it's taken away the luminosity.
I did have my polarizer on, Paul, but I didn't have it on because when the sun came out, I mean that. And there was different, when some of the sun, it was actually too hot because it was overexposing. I was getting the wee zebra marks that I get on my LCD. Yeah. So I was I had the polarizer off, you're just dialing it off and on, off and on, off and on. And I was waiting until the light wasn't as harsh as it had been. And, it was just kind of drifting out with clouds and light and that out of the images that I took, because I fired off quite a few to make sure I got because if it's burnt out, you can't recover it, as we know. So I just waited to get the right one with the right amount of light. And it was actually where you've got the two smaller trees that are kind of to the right of that ash. The yellows there, they were like bursting with light, and it was reflected light. It was incredible, and I've had to dial it back because it was too overpowering. And
I like the saplings. The sapling, you can actually see the sapling in the back there. The green and yellow leaves, a small sapling as well. There's so much interest in that picture. It's a
orchids. And I've got a funny wee story with that one because I never put the image in, but there was a couple of, back in the winter there, and one morning it was forecast for fog. It was a Saturday morning, I remember it. So I jumped out my bed, thought, right, this is great, we've got the fog. And we've been in winter, wasn't it, early? But even more to my surprise, opened my curtains and I ran down the stairs and it was snow, and I thought, oh yeah, dancer, snow. I never got this composition in snow. Yeah. But basically, I come in from outside the left side of the frame. There's a pathway just out of shot there, and I come up the bank. But the snow was so bad, I couldn't see where I was going, and I had a known composition. I knew where it was, but could I find it in the snow? But anyway, I must have come up the bank too far, went around to the right, and I've walked right the way through in from the right-hand side, footsteps all the way right through the scene, and I thought, oh God, I've just trampled all over my composition.
Yeah, it's worse.
but not well. And fun. Well, actually, because it was snowing so heavy, I took exposures later because my footsteps had gone away by this time. Mm-hmm. But when I got home, and this is where sometimes you didn't. Things happen you don't expect. When I got home and seen the image in Lightroom, I actually thought, you know what? The one with the footsteps is better because to me, the first thing I thought, it was the early stroll. So somebody out with a dog, maybe walking through the woods, and this, the way that the steps are going through, it wasn't just a straight line because you're kind of walking snow, can't you see where you're going?
Yeah,
And then I looked at the two images with and without, and I thought it's a bit, it needs something. The snow's nice, but it needed to have. And then I decided just that would be the photo that I stuck with the. Walk my me tramping all over my composition.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying. It's this weird whole things kind of work out when you're in photography. You can be like looking for a composition, and then I've had set up a good composition in woodland, and right behind me there's been a belter, a composition, a really cracking composition. I'm like, why did I not see that? Or even like something mistake happens, and it's amazing. Photography is. You just can get lost in it. Let's face it. What we do, we just love it, don't we? We absolutely love it.
I think it was a while ago, and maybe we don't think of it that way, but it was actually a while ago. It was a lady who made a comment on a photo, and she said, "What I love about your photos is you're making the ordinary extraordinary." Yeah. And I was like, and I started thinking about it, and I thought, God, you know what? It's right. It's a tree, or it's a group of trees, but with light, or if it's fog, or or whatever, there could be anything, we're making
ethereal look. You're giving an ethereal look to the images, and that people get lost in the image.
You're just capturing a particular, color or light or something happening to that thing, but you're being the creative person to create an image.
Yeah,
to show that element in nature. In a special way, so
absolutely.
Absolutely. And I couldn't, I never thought of it like that before. But in fact, really, that's what it's all about, isn't it? We're making the ordinary appear extraordinary.
Yeah.
When you look at, I know, like Stephen and Glad, what you do with your street photography and your macro. I mean, that's what we're doing. You're taking, that. I couldn't stop thinking about that when this lady said it, and I never thought it like that. But I suppose that's what it is.
It's your own perception, isn't it? It's your own perception of how you view the world, and I suppose and that's quite a scary thing because you're sharing your perception to the whole world.
Yeah.
Well, no, you're right. I think you're right. When I first started doing it, I was a wee bit. I remember thinking to myself, "Oh, what if people didn't like my stuff?" But I thought, you know what, I like it.
That's it. That's what we've been talking about for the last few weeks with photography. It's about the perception of the people that look at it. It's what you're looking to get. It's how it makes you feel, and what you talked about earlier as well. I love an image. I'm selfish that way. I'll take it because I want it, and if even it's that crap, I don't care. I just want to get up there and take pictures. I just love it. Guy, thanks again for watching. This is almost at the end now. We're just going to wind things up. It's been really a journey we've been taken through with Brian going through his landscape photography, and some of the images have been sublime, as you've seen there. From Stevie, myself, Glads, and Brian, we'd just like to thank you for coming in on and watching us again, and also putting up with my crap. But anyway, someone's got to present it, I suppose. So, Brian, I did ask him off camera, but I'm going to ask him in front of the camera so he does do it. Brian, would you come back on ClickCast again?
With pleasure.
Brian, I would love to have you on again as well. So we've got Kim Grant coming up, and we will have Tom Peters come up after that. We also have Paul Compton, and who knows? And also we've got a really interesting guy who's come up a few weeks' time at the end of November, and his name's Matt Whalen. Is it Whalen? Yeah, Glads. He's a street photographer. He's a street photographer who does poems as well. So that's also interesting. I'm looking forward to that one. So anyway, guys, it's been a great pleasure seeing you all. Thanks, Brian, from all of us. We've really enjoyed this.
It's been brilliant. I've loved every minute of it. I could have talked for a lot longer, easy.
I talk all night. Honestly, this is one of these videos one of these interviews that you just don't want to leave. But yeah, we all better get back to our beds and our families or whatever. My haystack in the back, whatever. So Stevie, Glads, Brian, thanks again, and have a lovely evening, and thanks again for being on ClickCast, and take care. See you later, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Okay, bye-bye. Bye.
Happy night to you, Brian.